This is Economic Forum. Hello and welcome. My name is Dawanda Gudlanga. This week we are focusing on innovation and technology. And with us is Mr. PHILLIP BVEKWA, the project manager at Science and Advanced Global Innovation Technologies, SAGET. Now, this discussion is coming at a time where teaching, research, and outreach created by the colonial system was meant to create a pool of laborers. But today, in this new dispensation, the Zimbabwe government is adopting Education 5.0, which embraces innovation and industrialization. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being in this show.
Mm-hmm. Now, innovation is a buzzword among the youth. Even in advertising today, one of the key words and messaging is on innovation. But what really is innovation?
Innovation, to start with, is a basic definition. We're looking at maybe having an audience that are not only coming from the industry or education sector or government. They just have a basic broad definition. I would say innovation is the process of coming from the idea, developing it, transforming it into an end product, which is either some tangible goods or services. But in the process of moving from your idea, you're going to the end product. We're looking at value. The end product then becomes a valuable asset to the intended user. Right? It has to have value. So innovation is basically talking about improvement, making something better. Anything that improves, right? The process of developing or transforming any initiative, it can be a totally different idea. You can call it an invention. It can be something that is already there, but maybe you want to work on having a significant improvement on it. But as it gets to its end product, either it's a service or it's some product that is physical, that is tangible, it has to have value to the end user.
Let's look at Zimbabwe and in the context of innovation. How far have we gone?
Zimbabwe is a very special nation in terms of looking at it from different facets as far as trying to unpack the context of innovation to Zimbabwe. Looking at Zimbabwe is an educated nation. We've got people with a very strong work ethic, and this is known the world over. Wherever you go, you can tell this person is Zimbabwean, right? So coming to innovation, it's a space where we are saying we have got a lot in terms of resources, in terms of opportunities, in terms of we are a young nation, in terms of we are a rich nation, in terms of available opportunities and resources, in terms of if you say how do we open new dimensions in terms of transforming our economy into let's say better things that can give a better lives to our people, right? So when you look at it like from the academic side, I'll try to look to relate most of the stuff from the academic side, because I see a lot of value coming or relating the innovation aspect to the academic side.
Okay.
Right. In the context of Zimbabwe, I'm seeing innovation as the lowest hanging fruit.
Okay.
Our nation has got, I think, if you look at the inputs for innovation, in terms of our human capital, in terms of the infrastructure, like I'm talking at how our nation is invested in education, in terms of primary, secondary to tertiary. We are a nation that has made significant strides. Innovation now becomes an interesting subject in the context of Zimbabwe. Why? Because we are called to innovate in context, not out of context. The definition of innovation from a Western perspective or from China, talk about other leading nations in terms of development. Yeah. The moment it comes to Zimbabwe, we're talking of something totally different. What am I saying? We are trying to build cities or develop cities or operate in cities or innovate in cities that were built without us in context. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Oh, that makes interesting.
We are trying to transform cities when they were built the builders
out
of those
of
cities,
our own local
they
context.
had their own intentions for those cities, right? We are looking at, for instance, right now we have an exciting new curriculum, a sort of education 5.0, 5.0, right? Well, we are focusing on industrializing our economy. Previously, we had an education system that was focused on developing you so that you get a job. But now we are saying, no, guys, there are no jobs, but you are supposed to get those jobs. And in getting those jobs, there are requirements that needs to be inputted into the innovation ecosystem for us to be able to get a valuable output. So in this case, as an economy, right, we are looking at innovation, or let me say rather, myself, I want to engage into anything, whether I'm fighting a challenge or I'm trying to get a solution. I want to position myself initially at a winning position. I want to develop myself with a mindset that I'm getting into this thing to win it. So if it comes to Zimbabwe, I have to roll back my mind to a point in time in our history where we have a very successful people. Talk of engineering, we still have got remains of the works of our people, the great Zimbabwe, where they would build outstanding things, unique things, and they would thrive. You know, Great Zimbabwe is the center of trade in the greater part of Southern Africa. There have been evidence that it was a huge empire. We are talking of trade and exchange. So I try to roll myself back to that situation whereby, who am I as a Zimbabwean? Who am I as a young person? What is my intended purpose?
Let's talk more about identity and, of course, the need to localize innovation for sustainable economic growth. Join us in the second segment as we talk about industrialization and innovation. Welcome back. We are focusing on innovation and industrialization, a new buzzword in Zimbabwe, following, of course, the accelerated mantra of Education 5.0. And with me is BVEKWA, a projects manager at Science and Advanced Global Innovation Technologies, SAGIT. Now, you were talking about identifying who you are, and you were using the person, the Zimbabwean, but it also even looks at the country itself, Zimbabwe, the winning strategy, the winning position that it should start from. But like you said earlier on, Zimbabwe has put a lot of investment in education, higher and tertiary education, primary and secondary education. What is that role of these institutions when we talk about innovation and industrialization?
Yes, like I was saying, if you are then to bring the context of innovation to Zimbabwe, we then have to focus on creating custom initiatives that address our local challenges, that improve the life of the local people, right? And we're looking at how then do we generate content for our innovation in context, because what Americans are innovating is different from what Zimbabweans are innovating. Right. We're saying we need to focus from a tertiary institution's perspective. We're up the ladder. We're looking at these guys then coming to take over the industry or joining the industry. We are focused on then having goods and services and production to power up the economy. Right. So in this case now, we are saying how do we focus on generating knowledge that is surrounding our need as a nation?
Do we even identify our needs? Or our
it includes
dictated by someone or some force somewhere?
It includes yes, of course, of course. We are working with a system, right? We are working with a system that is manufactured our failures, right? You need to get me right there. Personally, I'm looking at this thing that all our failures, or most of our failures as a nation, is of course they emanate from the mindset that we have been able to develop as a result of those crafted or engineered ways of manufacturing failures of the African peasant in terms of how do they come to be productive people in an economy. So if we are to reverse that, as an educated nation, we are addressing the mindset. And I'm saying, let's reorient or let's change the narrative of who we are. What are our abilities? In terms of going forward, what are the limits or what are the boundaries? What if we're going forward, let's go far, let's go beyond. Are we capable?
What are our capabilities?
Our capabilities, I'm saying, if we look back into the history, we used to build cities. If we had not had a bridging gap where a colonial master came in and then things had to go the other side, and then we had to reclaim that position, right? Which was, of course, a political liberation. And then we're not focusing on how then do we put food on the table, which is food on the table is production, and production goes to the economy. Right. And we're saying now, if we are to talk of innovation in the context of a journey that has been once successful, and then now it is being regained in a context, right? We then need to make sure that we invest in understanding that we create local knowledge, local understanding. If it means let's re-explore our nation every square inch to know, do we really have gold? How much gold? Do we really have diamonds? How much diamonds? Let's invest in knowing, do we have natural regions? Are they still 5? Or we still have more? In the context maybe of climate change, let's go back to the draft board as a people that have gained their political independence. Now we need to invest in our economic liberation to empower ourselves, because why am I saying so? Innovation requires a lot of resources. It is so wasteful. You can try it 100 times, you don't have to give up. You need to be motivated psychologically, mentally, physically, and emotionally to keep at its cost.
Do we have the resources there now
Then
to actually be wasteful? I'm taking it in the context of a world that is largely becoming competitive. You have nations that are creating synergies in order to have that global economic dominance, as it were. So do we have that time for trial and error? Or we should be investing more in our tertiary or primary institutions for us to then have sustainable innovation and industrialization.
yes, in a way we have been investing. Like I was saying, we have invested in education. And we are seeing at the height of it coming to tertiary institutions, what we need to focus on. And them being, the institutions being a low-hanging fruit, to now say maybe we are converting what we have already developed. Maybe now we need to talk about how do we bridge academia and industry. So that in a way, you may see a shortage of resources if you then don't come to the context of seeing that what is being done in the history, coming to where we are, was actually a required step of achieving sustainable innovation. So in this case, I'm saying we are not forgetting that innovation is a form of coming from an initiative and then coming to a product that has to have value to the end user. So in any way, life is all about improvement and improvement, right? So in this case, I'm saying, if you're looking at the higher tertiary institution or the higher academia, how then do we convert them into have the mindset of being productive or an entrepreneurial mindset, whereby when they finish their education, not only finish, even during the education, they should know that how do they make money whilst learning? Not only at high tertiary, we're looking at even at preschool. We don't want a graduate to be, a master's graduate to be focusing on toys, because maybe they want to focus on something else better. So these young guys could be given an opportunity to, whilst they're in preschool, grade 0, let them make their own toys. Let them make their own small aeroplanes, whatever you call them. Let's make sure that we fill the whole value chain up to the top with the resources. Basically, looking at what is available.
What are some of the key stepping stones, in your view, that will make us be a country that really harnesses its human resources and the drive and investment in education in order for us to have more innovators?
That comes to the economy part. The biggest move that we can make is to look at how do we create synergies between our industry and our academia. Say, for example, we are an SME-driven nation, economy. Most of these guys, even if you talk of your gold production, is the small-scale miners that are making bigger part of it. and we need to focus on how do we avoid spillages in the value chain as we're innovating. Like, for example, almost these SMEs now, they want to scale bigger, maybe into established corporates, right? And we are doing this, like we're saying, in a globalizing economy, in a globalizing world, where they have to have that competitiveness in terms of doing what needs to be done, right? So I'm coming to Zimbabwe now. We're looking at SMEs, like I was giving an example to someone else. Let's look at a particular SME. These are at their different stages of development. I'm looking at one individual, the one that you know typically, who goes to Botswana, who goes to another country, they import stuff, right? They come with it right from the border. Zimmer wants money. They have to pay for transport. They get to home, it's not even their house, they are renting.
Let's talk about that in the third and final segment as we seek to understand how Zimbabwe can harness from its rich, diverse capital to accelerate innovation and industrialization. Join us then. Welcome back. New twins are joining, of course, Education 3.0 to make it 5.0, and that is innovation and industrialization. And that's our focus this week. And with me is BVEKWA from Saget. Now, before you went to the break, you were about to give us an example of the common tradesman applying, of course, the regional route to make some money. And how do we relate that with innovation?
I'm looking at the industry part. Okay. What we're saying, maybe after, like when you're innovating, you're starting from the idea, you have to enter the product. So in one or the other, you need to start from somewhere and then grow. And then a typical SME or a typical person who is doing business, maybe at the lower level of the stage of development, is this sole trader, right? They come to the nation, they are paying rent at home, they are paying bills at home, they are renting a shop in town, they are paying, Citicans wants its license, Zimmer wants their dues, they are paying Econet for telephone bills, they are paying, you see, these are more than 15 things that are coming to one person to take money from them. But they are selling maybe a limited number of products in town for the sole purpose of maybe feeding their family and sending their kids to school. And then the government now is called to, as policy, to innovate around this entrepreneur, to say, how do we lighten the burden so that their journey to become an established corporate, or we remove noise around their efforts.
But how is it that some nations are investing heavily and they are paying big money to innovators, and yet Zimbabwe is not doing just that?
There is something about being able to develop a working economy with people who have not been in a working economy for a long time, especially your young guys. Some of them right now, if you look at them, they've never known. They always hear you talking about a good economy, but they don't know a good economy. But it's different now when you are able to prove a certain idea by practicalizing it, and then people see the fruits. The motivation and the need for you to wake up maybe early hours or spend sleepless nights becomes different. So I think now, apart from Zimbabwe in context of innovation, coming up with a working economy, the players, which are these young guys, they need exposure to see what a working economy feels like. Look at these guys that are moving out of the nation, maybe we call it a brain drain. They go and they never come back. Sometimes it's not like they don't come home. Home is the best all the time. But sometimes, you know, when you flow in a working economy, there are certain things that we expect should just be there. But in this case, we're saying we are the people, we have taken our country, we have done everything. Let's innovate everything in the context of empowering ourselves economically to be able to grow from where we are into a future that we desire. Then we have to pay the price. So in context, we are looking at the content or the knowledge generation around the context of innovation in Zimbabwe being one of the focus needs or the focus points of the tertiary institutions to say, generate content around innovation in the context of Zimbabwe, right from available potential narratives of opportunities. Because one thing I want to assure you is, America will not come to you. China, even, it is our biggest trade partner. They won't come to us and tell us of our opportunities. They won't do that. Right.
Why are we not making our own machines that speak to our needs as a country?
In that case now, that's where we are now looking at academia to say, whilst they are focusing on developing the custom solutions for our need, already we are in a globalizing economy. We need to have a global perspective. There already come countries that have gone ahead, way ahead of us. Whilst we are working with them, whilst we are integrating in the world of economies, we still have a case that is maybe at a disadvantage at a point in time where we need to catch up as well without compromising. Because we also have a coming generation that needs to build on what we have done. Look, for example, at Dubai. They have done amazing things in under 2 generations, in under 2 decades actually. Like starting from 2002, when they went on a verge of building and expanding on the tourism sector, right? It was amazing how they came up with expanding their beachfront from 72 kilometers to now a whooping over 2,500, like 2,500 of prime beachfront, which is a huge investment in tourism. So in Zimbabwe, if we are to focus on saying what we have are resources, then let's not do jokes about our resources, number one. If you are saying what we have is a tertiary institution as the highest of the knowledge investment that we've done in educating the nation, let's not even politic about the tertiary institutions. Let's not politicize innovation. Let's make sure that we don't compromise anything to do with innovation as far as industrializing and transforming the economy and benefiting our people is concerned.
As we wrap up, what would be your comment with regards the higher and tertiary education system, where there were vocational and technical and vocational centers? Then you have your polytechnics, and then you have your universities, where everyone seems to take their child to university, foregoing these other because they are deemed inferior. Is this one way of embracing innovation? What would be your thoughts on that?
On that one, maybe it's because people just thought like you go to university, that's the best thing. More of this personal development was based on getting a good job, and then you need to look nice in the community. But if you go to these companies, they'll tell you, we only take students on attachment from MSU. Because they know that MSU can produce good programmers. They'll tell you, our attaches come from Harare Poly. And there are cases where, a university produces a certain type of innovator, right? And then the vocational, same as the polytechnic or the teachers college, they produce different kind of products. And then if we look at it in the ecosystems approach, how do we look at our education system as feeding into an industrializing economy, and we look at the needs of an industry working system in its totality, we can then generate knowledge to educate our nation that it's not in any way a disadvantage to go to a polytech than going to a university. Rather, you need to understand what is who you are in terms of your passions, in terms of your skills.
So very little time, but so much to talk about. Philip, thank you so much for coming through to Economic Forum.
You're welcome.
My guest this week is PHILLIP BVEKWA from Sajet, and we were focusing on innovation and industrialization, new facets that are critical in the transformation of our education system in Zimbabwe, transforming from education 3.0 to education 5.0. We've come to the end of the program. My name is Tawanda Gudlanga. It's pleasant viewing.